Hello and welcome to my first gameplay review featuring Whimsykitty on Zarya in a quick play match. In this video I plan to focus on Whimsykitty's decision making, including positioning, priorities, and mechanics. Let's get started. At the start of the video we can see Zarya searching around for her teammates. This is generally a good idea because Zarya needs to know where they are in case a projected barrier is required. One thing that is very important to note here is Hanzo is on the overlook, potentially making it very difficult to shield him in case he requires it. To counteract this, Zarya should be ready to move closer to the storage room to give her increased line of sight of Hanzo in case it's required. Here Zarya could have charged her ult a little bit by left clicking through D.Va's defense matrix. However, you have to consider by doing this you'll be also charging the ults of the enemy supports. So generally speaking, if you don't actually have a chance to kill someone by doing this, it's not always the best thing to do. But in this case I would have because of the importance of Zarya's ult. Also, the future loss of this point may have been prevented if you had it. Next we see the enemy Zenyatta getting picked. The first thing that should run through your mind when this happens is, it's now a 6 versus 5. While this doesn't mean you should rush around the corner and try to finish off the remaining enemies, especially not while defending a point, it does mean that your team can stand a little bit more aggressively for a short time, especially with the Roadhog defending the roadway. This could result in another pick, which would stagger the enemy's spawn rate. Here, as soon as the sound cue of Reaper's shotgun starts, Zarya should have turned around in an attempt to use a projected barrier on her teammate, thus saving his life, and extending the defense time at this point. The enemy D.Va would have likely died in either scenario, but regardless, Reaper is a higher priority here because of his DPS in close range combat. Here we see the enemy Genji dangerously dash in an attempt to kill Hanzo, I assume. In my opinion, the failure to kill Genji after this was the cause of the point falling. Zarya should have not used her right click here, and instead only focused on tracking with left mouse. Left mouse does about twice as much damage per second as right mouse, in a single target setting. Also, it passes directly through Genji's reflect. Zarya's inability to track Genji with left mouse here is likely due to too high of a sensitivity. This is evident when you see the mouse overextend when trying to track back onto a target. Genji would have died in about 1 second of tracking here because he was currently at 50% HP. Following Genji's escape, he was able to secure a kill and then ult alongside Ana's ult for the loss of the point. At this point there was nothing you could do. The Zenyatta also ulted, you were a couple teammates down, and you didn't have an ult yourself. Next you hear a Reaper teleport directly to your left. You should make an effort to look for exactly where he is without putting yourself in danger. And in any event, you should make an effort to communicate to your team the location of the Reaper. It's possible that your teammates weren't around to hear it or just didn't hear it, and he could easily wipe your team if gone unchecked, although he does not do that here. The audio cues in this game are extremely important. They can win you games if you pay attention to them, and you could lose games if you don't pay attention to them. The positioning of the team at this point is very bad. The two tanks are sitting in the main roadway, and the remainder of the team is in the back alley. Prior to the payload moving, the team should have set up on top of the bank, or saloon. The current setup offers no protection of the supports or DPS characters. Additionally, it provides only a small amount of resistance for the payload to move forward. Although I do believe that Zarya did make the correct decision here. Some resistance is required for the payload, so it doesn't move forward. In a competitive game, it would have been good to ask the team to group together, either on top of one of the buildings like I had said, or at the intersection of the alley and mainway at the center of this area. The dispersed nature of the team on this point led to its quick downfall. Zarya attempts to save the point with her ult, but it was unlikely to do anything because D.Va was caught in the mix and she could just use right mouse in order to absorb any damage coming in. The only way this point was going to be saved was if Zarya used her ult in conjunction with Hanzo's ult. However, this was unlikely to happen because of the lack of communication in the team, and also the team spawn was currently staggered. Here Zarya and the team decide to fight in the open. This is not a good idea because of the proximity to the enemy's new spawn location, and the defense will lose a lot of ground here if they get killed. At this point, the enemy team easily pushes into the final points. There's not too much else to say about the Zarya's gameplay here. Her team continues to play very scattered, and Zarya requires a cohesive team to shine. Without a team that sticks together, it's hard for Zarya to consistently have high charge, and without high charge she can be underwhelming at times. We will see a great example of having too high of a sensitivity for tracking Genji here. You can see the mouse overextending when trying to track back onto Genji. A full HP Genji can die extremely fast, especially with Discord Orb on and a full charge Zarya. It's likely if Zarya practices with a lower sensitivity with tracking weapons, several of the points in this game could have been saved or at least delayed. Thank you for watching this gameplay review video. If you enjoyed the video or have any criticism, I would love to hear it. This is the first video I have ever made, so I'm sure I have a lot to work on, but I really enjoyed the process. Like, subscribe, and check out my Twitch channel if you want to see more content from me.